Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer, and it's also part of the True Stories collection. If Dress Down is in play, would Veil of Summer be able to give a creature hexproof? Well, okay, regardless of whether there's a Dress Down in play, you can always cast the Veil of Summer, and one of that spell's effects would be to set up a continuous effect that gives all of your creatures hexproof. So would this result in all of your creatures actually having hexproof? And the answer to that question is, it depends. See, Dress Down removes all of the abilities from creatures via its own continuous effect. If that effect applies after Veil of Summer, it will remove the hexproof abilities from your creatures after Veil of Summer adds them, and the Veil's continuous effect won't get to try to add them back in after it gets its chance to apply. On the other hand, suppose that we apply the Dress Down first. In that case, it will remove all of the abilities from your creatures before Veil of Summer grants the new ability to them. Just like in the previous case, the Dress Down won't apply again just because something messed up its perfect world after it got its time to apply. So in that case, which of these abilities applies first? And like I hinted at before, it depends. When two continuous effects are both trying to do the same type of thing, the tiebreaker is generally which one started first. Given that both of Dress Down and Veil of Summer can be played at instant speed, it could be the case that the Dress Down entered the battlefield before the Veil of Summer resolved, in which case it would apply before Veil of Summer. On the other hand, if Veil of Summer resolved before Dress Down entered the battlefield, then Veil of Summer would apply first. Note that for continuous effects, the important thing in determining their timestamp is when the effect started, which means that we look at when those cards resolved, not when they were cast. Another more advanced note is that sometimes we use a different system called dependencies that can override timestamps. I made a whole video about dependencies a while ago where I explained exactly why this sort of interaction does not result in a dependency, but if you don't want to click off this video, here's a brief passage from the CR that backs that up. Rulings like this one tend to be a little bit controversial because even if there is no dependency between these two effects, I think a lot of people tend to have this psychological expectation that Dress Down should have primacy here. And indeed, sometimes that's what the templating team wants for some cards, but they have to word things a little bit differently to achieve this. For example, check out Archetype of Endurance. In addition to making it so that your creatures lose hexproof, it also says that they can't gain or have hexproof, so it doesn't matter what the relative timestamps are because you're covered either way. Or how about Glaring Spotlight? Everything still has hexproof, we'll just change the rules about how hexproof works so that it doesn't really do anything. I'm sure a few observant people are probably wondering about this, so yes, even though Veil of Summer gives hexproof from blue and black, and Archetype and Spotlight just say hexproof, we have this rule here that says hexproof from abilities are still covered. So yes, those cards will work against Veil of Summer just as much as they work against plain old vanilla hexproof. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.